Hello everyone, I hope you're all doing great. Today's video is one heck of a strange but exciting reading wrap up. I'll be talking about all the books I read in August, which is such a weird stack to see smushed together in front of me. Which, by the way, I stuck to my TBR so freaking well. I didn't deviate. We love an organized reader, well sort of. I did move sort of unexpectedly, so it's been hard to focus on reading in general, being in a new place, but we made it work. I only have 3 books here which are in a variety of genres, and one you are all going to be shocked to see. I delved into some fantasy romance, and as someone who sees the word romance and cowers in fear, like in Home Alone when Kevin sees his neighbor dragging a shovel, I was brave this month, and you should be proud of me. I also found a new favorite fantasy and also a book that really disappointed me. So, let's start with that romance, which was The Undertaking of Heart and Mercy. It was actually the very first book that I picked up in August, and don't get me wrong, I knew what I was getting into, and like I said in my August TBR video, I went into it with an open mind, and I was going to like it whether it kills me. Because I wanted something warm and fuzzy. Since I moved into my new apartment, something must be in the air. There must be like a chemical leak. Zombies and romance. That's all I kept hearing about this book, and I was so curious. I will say though, the romance technically doesn't begin until more than halfway through the book. So that was a plus for me, because this is an intense enemies to lovers story, which by the way is such a weird trope to me. It's very hard to get used to. The love interests are like,
God, I hate this person. Oh, but her boobs are magnificent. Man, she's so annoying, but I want to feel her ass. I never want to see him again, but wow, his eyes are beautiful and I could stare into them forever.
These are actual statements, by the way, in the first like 20 pages. It's the most mixed signals I've ever seen and will just never make sense to me. I totally get that's the appeal. I'm not here to trope shame. I just try to laugh at it. If I have to choose a romance trope, friends to lovers, I just prefer way more. It's much more wholesome to me. It's just a preference, but I still wanted to give this a try. So I decided to trick my brain into finding it humorous and accepting the fact that's the trope. These characters are disgusted and sexually aroused by each other at the same time. Because I did really like the setting of this book. The occupation everyone has were really fun to read about. Mercy runs a struggling family business as an undertaker, while Hart supplies the bodies by hunting zombies. They're called drudges here, but they're zombies, and the only way to kill them is by puncturing their appendix, which was a really interesting take. Hart is also struggling though mentally by loneliness, and he writes anonymous letters about his feelings and actually mails them out to the world, expecting no one to get them. Of course, they go to the person he least expects to get them, Mercy, his arch nemesis, the woman he despises and gets hard for. And she has no idea who it's from, but decides to reply to them with her heart on her sleeve. You do have to suspend your belief when it comes to the letters because it should be so freaking obvious to the characters who is writing them, but it still has a very addicting quality to it because you want to see their reactions if or when they do find out who their pen pal really is. The characters individually I really liked. I will say my favorite duo in the entire book was Hart and his apprentice Duckers. They need their own freaking book. They were like Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid. My neighbor's mowing right now, so I'm so sorry if you hear that. There are also human-sized rabbits and owls that are like the mail carriers, and they were really funny. Overall, I gave this 3 out of 5 stars. The story isn't all ooey gooey romance. There's a lot of swearing, puns, some gore, so it honestly made the story all the more fun for me. Again, the very sexually enhanced romance isn't really until the second half, where you're smothered with sex scenes. The zombie morbid vibes matched really well with the romance, surprisingly. Just some fantasy elements that I wish were more polished because I was left with a lot of questions about how some of the magic worked, like all the different gods, the talking animal characters, the portals. Hart is a demigod, which I would have really loved more lore on. But yeah, enjoyable. I think this is a great debut. Okay, so I felt it was high time for me to finally read this damn book, and that was Theft of Swords. It had been sitting on my shelves unread for absolutely ages, and I promised myself if there was any book that I was going to finally read in 2022, it was going to be this one. and I did it. This book was so freaking good, like as in I should quit reading and go to bed good, and as in a good book, the farther in I got, the less and less sleep I got. I always knew this had the potential to be a favorite, but I think the love it has intimidated me. It's a chunker and it is an epic fantasy. After reading so many books that throw you into like a complex world that requires a lot of mental effort to like find your footing, it was so unexpected and nice to read this and not feel overwhelmed at all. The author has a very gentle approach where he supplies like little bits of lore as needed with hints thrown out here and there as to where the story might be going. Nothing at all was hard to figure out, yet you still get that like grand scope feeling. I did follow along with the graphic audio edition of the audiobook, and wow, if you haven't listened to it, you should. Literally a movie in your head. There's over like 30 narrators. There's music and sound effects for everything. Literally when characters are walking in a palace, a cave, on gravel, you get the footstep sounds. There's sword fighting sounds, rain, wind. I cannot get over how well done it was, and I will probably continue the story by listening to that audiobook. Anyway, so just really quick on what the story is about for those of you who are in the same boat that I used to be in. Our two main characters, Royce and Hadrian, are famous thieves, and they live by only one rule, and that is to not take a last-minute job, as they need to do their research first and to make sure it's legit and safe. However, Hadrian, who has like a really big heart and seems to be pulled into doing like good deeds, agrees to a last minute job because it sounds very simple and has a very high cash reward. This job goes completely awry. Things are not what they seem. They are accused of murder. They have to abandon everything, and this sets the course of the story as the absolute shenanigans begins, including kidnapping the prince. Hadrian and Royce are such a fantastic pair. They work so well together. Their disagreements are believable and hilarious. I could always see both of their views on things, so it's very difficult to choose who is my favorite because they both bring such fantastic humor, experience, and personality to the table, and they aren't the only characters who I loved and had me laughing. Actually, the amount of times I chuckled out loud reading this, far too many to count. The characters' sarcasm, the jokes. The book literally begins with Royce and Hadrian jokingly taunting and critiquing a band of mystified bandits who are trying to mug them. I appreciated all of it. Michael J. Sullivan is now on my coveted list of authors to keep an eye on. A very easy 5 out of 5 stars. I cannot wait to continue the series, which I hope to do this month. I'm heavily invested in these characters and this world, and damn it, sometimes you need a fun fantasy that doesn't make you work to enjoy it, and that's exactly what this series is. So if you yourself are intimidated by this beast, don't be. Pick it up, read it. It's a very easy read. And the last book that I'll be talking about today is The Daughter of Dr. Moreau. So I went into this book expecting to love it. Sylvia Moreno Garcia is a fantastic writer. I love Mexican Gothic so much. And I have enjoyed other books by her as well, but I just struggled a lot with this book. This is a spin of the classic novel, The Island of Dr. Moreau, and we follow Carlotta, who is the daughter of the mysterious doctor. She lives on a remote estate with him and his strange hybrids, which are like these creature/human-like experiments that are created with DNA mixed with different species. And here they are safe from all of the conflict that is happening around them on the peninsula, but not safe from their own problems. For instance, Carlotta has like this illness, and the guests they bring in have not so good intentions. I did finish this, though it took me the entire month, and this book is really short. But I never got that same passion for it as I have with this author's other books. I just found the writing a bit tedious this time around, and the plot to be very slow. And I can totally get behind a slow plot when I find the characters interesting, and they're the ones that are like carrying the book. But unfortunately, I didn't find any connection with them either. It never gave me like a hook that could reel me in. I think part of it was that it was trying to bridge a few different genres. We have horror, thriller, though I personally got no like thriller vibes from it, romance, science. I actually found the biological and evolutionary concepts that were weaved into the plot to be really intriguing. Even like the experimentation scenes that involved the hybrids were really gruesome, and that part captivated me, but it never really went anywhere. I never felt any urgency. I gave this 2 out of 5 stars. I can't help but compare it to her other books, and this one just felt very flat to me. I still look forward to seeing what else she has in the future, but this was just like the bad egg of the bunch for me. So that's going to be it for this reading wrap up. Now that I am settled into my new place. Reading can only get better from here. I have more time on my hands, so hopefully I can spend that time wisely by reading and not playing as many video games. I hope you enjoyed this video, and leave a comment because it really helps me out. It helps grow the channel. Subscribe if you haven't, and until we meet again, happy reading.